Welcome back to day 3 of this 14-day series where we'll be making San Francisco-style sourdough bread next week. But first, this week we're making our very own sourdough starter from scratch. So yesterday we mixed our flour and water for the first time, and then let it rest for 24 hours. Now after a day you can't expect much of a change in your starter. In fact, you're lucky to see any activity at all after the first 24 hours, but everyone's results will be different. Part of that's due to the temperature the starter was kept at, since a warmer environment of around 27 to 30 degrees Celsius, or roughly 80 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit, will usually promote faster and stronger growth. But despite what it might seem, we're not just conjuring yeast and bacteria out of thin air. We're simply making a nice hospitable environment for the yeast that's already in the flour to grow nice and strong. Think of it kind of like putting out a bird feeder in your back garden. Just because you see birds eating out of it after a couple days doesn't mean you created those birds. You just made an environment that encouraged them to hang out. To extend that analogy a bit, imagine you put the same bird feeder with the same food out in several gardens. Now the type and number of birds that were already hanging out in the area would make a dramatic effect on how many would be feeding on the bird feeders after a day or two. Okay, so I've probably stretched that analogy as far as it'll go, but hopefully you see the parallels here. That those birds in the garden are like the wild yeasties that are lying dormant in the flour that you chose to make your starter. Some flour simply has more in there than others, and this will dramatically affect how quickly your sourdough starter takes root and grows. You activate them when you add the water, and then if you keep the starter at an optimal temperature, you'll encourage the little guys to feed and multiply as fast as possible. Now this could take up to a week to really get going depending on the flour you use and the temperature you keep it at. But in general, you won't be seeing much action at this stage after only a day of growth. And that's what I expected to show you today. In fact, my wife is following along as we go, and with the flour that she chose, we see exactly what we expected to see. A few bubbles, but not too much action. But this is where things got a bit strange. You see, I chose a different wholemeal flour than her. You all saw me mix my new starter yesterday. Literally, you watched me dump in the flour and pour in the filtered water. Then I put it in a special environment where I kept it perfectly at 28 degrees Celsius or 82 degrees Fahrenheit. But then, as you see here, my brand new starter decided that it was time to make a fool out of me, and it decided to grow to over 175% of its original height on its first day. So besides earning the name Mighty Mouse, what else does this show us? Well, it shows us that your results could be anywhere on the spectrum from no bubbles to crazy growth, and you're still doing just great. So back to the here and now of what we'll do on day 3. Well, it's pretty much the same as our initial feeding yesterday. Tomorrow, and in the days ahead, we'll be throwing out part of our starter before feeding it, but not today. Today we simply add the same amounts as yesterday, but this time we add the water first. By adding the water first, we dissipate the current starter into a thinner solution before adding in the flour, which allows for a more consistent mixture. So add in 100 grams of water and stir it up really well. Then add in 75 grams of whole wheat or wholemeal flour. Followed by 25 grams of your white flour. Then stir it all together until it's evenly combined. If you're using a second container, go ahead and pour the starter into the second container now to keep things nice and neat. Then pop on the rubber band to mark where it is after this second feeding. Now go ahead and put it in the same warm place as you did before, and then it's time for another 24-hour nap. So that's it, day 3 is done. Now don't forget that as we go through this 2-week series, I'd love to see how everyone's doing. So please, comment below and post pictures as you go on Instagram or Twitter with the hashtag #I'mALoafHacker, and I'll be able to find it and cheer you along as you go. Okay, well that's class dismissed for the day. Please come back tomorrow at the same time and we'll go on to the next step. Bye for now.